for AM Eastern time, which might actually be the earliest podcast I've ever done. Not counting shows that like went past midnight or something. I think no bullshit. This might actually be the earliest podcast I've ever done. Episode 1451. This is the earliest. So not
Ah,
the coolest or uncoolest, I guess, superlative, but a superlative nonetheless. So
yeah.
there's your trophy.
Congratulations. It's a
Thank you.
milestone.
Thank you. And for everybody listening, this is Mr. Jason Kelly. He's been on here before. I want to say it was episode 500 something. I'm actually gonna look that up right now. And but yeah, I emailed you last week, I think, and wanted
Yeah.
to have you on. And luckily, you did remember me. So let me
It's good to be back. I'm glad to see you sticking with it.
thank you, sir. You were episode 574, so you're about 900 episodes ago. But Mr. Kelly, if you could you please introduce yourself, and then we can kind of jump into fourth turning, super cycle, economic collapse, or we can just wing it and talk about literally anything else. I don't care.
Sure. Okay. Yes, I'm Jason Kelly. I'm the best-selling author of The Neatest Little Guide to Stock Market Investing and the follow-on book called The 3% Signal, which presents my investing system of quarterly price reaction. I think last time we talked about the markets and politics. That's usually what I end up talking about. And then my main gig is that I publish the Kelly Letter every Sunday for investors who run the plans that came from the 3% Signal Foundation. That's my background. I come from a business, politics, and investing background.
And you're in Japan, which is also pretty badass. And
Yes, and that explains your latest ever recording for that time difference, huh?
earliest, latest for you, earliest for me.
Oh,
It
that's right.
yeah. And but yeah, guys, if you go into the description, you can find the link to his website, and I believe you have a Substack, which I don't know if you had last time, but I found that and put that in the description. I don't know if
That's
that do
true.
you
Yeah, thanks
update
for
that?
finding that.
Is that
Yeah,
worth
yeah.
keeping in there? All right. So because sometimes
Yeah.
I'll tell
I think it is
people.
worth keeping in there.
Well,
Thank you.
like I've had people on before where I'm like, and I found like your YouTube channel this, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I haven't logged into that in a decade, and I'll be like, all right, fuck me. But like, um,
Yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
know.
So
I know.
the last week I've been kind of doing these episodes more, and I always say this, sometimes I'll be like, my audience wants to know, and it's a way to launder my own incompetence for it's a question I want to know, and it's like, well,
Hmm.
I have a podcast, so I can just ask people this stuff. But I had heard the term fourth turning before, and I kind of just wrote it off as it's the end of it's like every year it's the end. But actually looking at it and having people explain it to me really over the last 2 weeks or so is that it seems pretty mathematically certain that roughly every 80 years you have some sort of economic, I don't know if cataclysm is too dramatic, but you have a big one. And it kind of does seem like we are, I guess, 2020 was a pretty obvious one, but I
Yeah.
guess where would you, and I don't know what, 28, so 80 years later is right. Oh 08, so pretty obvious. Where would you say that we are concerning that, which is the $100 trillion question? So if you don't have the answer, that's fine. And how would people navigate it? Again, the
Sure.
hey, just tell me what the
Sure.
markets are doing next year, real quick, if you could. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know it's
really. Let me
kind of
just lay
ridiculous.
that out
Just
for you.
hey, I'm gonna spin the wheel. Could you tell me where it's gonna land? Like, yeah, Tommy, I got you.
Yeah, get your pens and notepads
Yeah,
ready, folks. Here you go.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the generational theory, the fourth turning that there's Strauss and Howe that
Mm-hmm.
wrote that book, is that right? And they did research on it before that. I think it's grounded in reality in the sense that generations have characteristics about them and then those generations tend to repeat. And I think the difference among generations is one reason why older people almost always say what's wrong with kids these days. And I've had debates on that very topic with some of my subscribers, whether kids these days, let's just say people under 30 for purposes of this discussion. So you barely missed the mark there, Tom. Good for you. But when people talk about
I can gang up with you and be like, yeah, kids these days.
that's right, kids these days, get off my lawn kind of stuff.
Hell yeah.
And I accept that people have always said that there's always been some skepticism from older people looking back at younger people. But I think you could make an argument that there really is a difference this time, and it may have started with the advent of smartphones and social media. Not quite sure, but there is a difference among younger people these days, I think, in the sense that attention spans are down. A lot of sort of phantom maladies, people saying that they're allergic to things that human beings were not allergic to forever. And it's contagious. As soon as something's mentioned in media more than a couple
Hmm.
hundred times, suddenly people think, yeah, I think I suffer from that too. And I think that decades of this piling up has turned the younger generation into something like we've never seen before. Does that mean everybody? Of course not. Anytime you talk about generalizations like this, somebody will always say, "But I met a smart kid at a university a couple weeks ago, so what are you talking about?" Of course, I know there are, I get that. But we're not talking about everybody. We're talking about general tendencies. And I find it rare to have an intelligent conversation with a young person these days. If you can have a conversation with them at all, if they're not zoned out on their phones, whatever it is they're doing. Everybody has phones, everybody keeps in touch, but this kind of zombie land, what scape we've created in schools is shocking. And I think that relates back to this fourth turning idea that we may be coming up on a crisis if we have a generation of people that doesn't want to work, that has high suicidal tendencies, that has low self-esteem, no sense of history, cannot pay attention for absorbing any kind of information, it's not hard to imagine that leading to a crisis. So in that sense, I am sympathetic with that generational theory and think we could be heading for some tough times. Now, if I may, I'd like to throw a monkey wrench into this. What if, just as the output of humanity is declining, the quality, let's say, I would argue that our books are not as good as they used to be. Many of our films are not as good as they used to be. We're repeating a lot of storylines from the past, a lot of templatization going on. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that as the quality of human output is coming down, right at that moment, AI comes out and the capability of AI is rising rapidly. And I would say even if the AI timeline that's now been sparked by, let's say, ChatGPT's release in November 2022, let's say starting there, even though I realize AI research goes back farther, but if we start at that point and we give it the trajectory it's on, and maybe we're going to see this kind of parabolic improvement in AI capability, if that had met a very capable generation, like the greatest generation of World War II, or even one before that, where people were memorizing entire books for tests in school, AI would still have surpassed the capability of those earlier generations. But against today's generations of device dependent, low attention span, phantom malady suffering people, I think AI is going to skirt right past this. And it may be that just as humanity was about to collapse through the grate on the floor, the smart group put AI up there and it's going to be able to hold society up. So I find this just a fascinating time that as humanity comes to this sort of crossroads of how in the world are we going to get anything off the ground with this young generation of of people with no backbone, and then AI comes along to prop the whole thing up. I think it's a fascinating time in history.
It's and I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure like the human descendant, or I guess weird descendants of what survived the KT impact, which killed the dinosaurs, was a shrew. So for like a quarter billion years, it was all about bigger, stronger, leathery skin, literal armor like like a like massive horns, or feet the size of cars, and you could rip open a whale. Like that was forever. I mean, what human civilization's roughly as we know it 10,000 years old.
About,
Multiply that
yeah.
by 1,000, you're at 10 million. Multiply it by 10,000, you're at 100 million, and then do that 2.5 times, you're at. That's how long that was. And then it got replaced by, if you are a tiny, ugly, little hairless creature, like, you are now the best because you can get
Hmm.
underground. You can avoid the what seems to be some sort of a asteroidal impact holocaust on the surface. So in that
Well, and what
sense,
about, isn't it interesting to note that human beings were an enormous experiment by nature. I mean, evolution, we're the only ones where the evolution created this huge brain that requires so much energy. And then we basically have no other advantages in nature. We don't have good claws, we don't have good teeth, we can't fight very well, we can't climb well, we don't swim as well as other creatures, we can't run quickly, our skin is soft, we have to clothe ourselves. It's just unbelievable the terrible situation we're in. Except we've got this noggin, and that turned out to be enough to take over the planet. And if we have now created something that is going to be better at what we do than we are, it's going to be quite a crossroads. And that's what I think we're looking at, and everybody's looking at. Is this going to be good for us or bad for us? And by the time we realize it, will it be too late? Personally, Tom, I'm an optimist. But partly my optimism for AI stems from my pessimism for humanity. I
Yeah.
mean, I look around and I think, what's to lose here? I mean, have we done such a great job? There's some beautiful things about humanity, but when you look around at the track record, it's like I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and I don't think our calcified political systems are going to bring it. And maybe AI will break this thing right open and get us to a place we couldn't have gone on our own.
No, I think that's exactly what it is. My point about like the shrew and nature doesn't care. Nature isn't a thing that's pulling the strings. It's a name we give to it. There is no nature that's like let's try it. It just like I think one of the weirdest things to me was when I had taken cellular biology. I think it was the last class I took, and I never
Yeah.
really thought about it, but it's just always, if you have a cut, what it does is it releases this and it clots this, and then, or, during sex, like adrenaline goes up and it causes this and then that. And everyone's really thinking about like, we give it a name, it causes. But when you go into cellular biology, you realize that everything is just this set of dominoes, like a Rube Goldberg device. And you're like, oh yeah, wait, it's not that the liver does this. It's what we call this chain reaction, as we call it the liver. But there's no one thing that's like it's time to release adrenaline. It's just there's not a higher up. So with nature, it's just whatever works. And
Hmm.
with AI, why it doesn't care. It's just the main rule is propagation. Can you make a copy of yourself and go on longer? That is the base rule of all of it, is just reproduction. And yeah, why wouldn't we? And who's to say that, we might say that we're not as great now, but if we give birth to AI, then I think Marshall McLuhan said, uh, we are the sex organs of the machine world, meaning we're creating them and building them. We're giving birth to them. It's a caterpillar turning into the butterfly, and you know it might be that this is what we're here for, is to create them smarter than us, right? Because if we're not monsters, but we can still manage to control the world. It's with the brain. So the brain has been pretty much anointed as the end all be all. It is the most advantageous weapon. And what's
Yes.
crazy is AI could take that and go off to the races, but it could also create a physical body just in case that
Yes.
rivaled the dinosaurs, make it out of carbon nanotubes, and it runs on nuclear fusion. Like, on the off chance intelligence isn't the thing, we'll just fucking run the world out of brute power. Like, it might be an Albert Einstein in a T Rex's body. Like, it might be like just such a coup d'etat that it'll leave our heads spinning. So I'm with
And
you.
see, talk
Yeah.
about interesting. Talk about interesting. These crises are not all bad. That's going to be the greatest entertainment. Well, they're adding on to that. One of the theories about why we don't have compelling evidence of extraterrestrial life is that it's possible. There are several theories, but one theory is that as a society gets more and more advanced, it eventually creates the means to destroy itself, and then most of them, or possibly all of them, do destroy themselves. Whether it's, for example, what we know here on Earth, if it's through nuclear war or a pandemic or some kind of other self-inflicted wound, possibly we would not continue, and that's why we would never be able to go meet other civilizations. And the theory is that maybe they have reached this great filter as well of self-destruction, and that's why they're not around anymore for us to discover. But if a civilization could get past whatever kills most of them, it seems inevitable that they would create AI. I mean, we're not very far along. As you mentioned, our civilization's only 10,000 years old, and that's being generous. I mean, the stuff
Mm.
we really care about is what, 500 years old, and the stuff we really care about is what, since the iPhone? No, I'm
Yeah,
just
no, it's like 2000. It's like 1990 forward. Like,
So, I mean, if you think of how young we are, and we're already creating AI that's pretty darn good, and it's going to get amazing in the next 10, 15, 50 years. Well, if civilizations have survived that great filter in the universe, which is 14.9 billion years old, then there should be civilizations out there that are hundreds of millions, possibly billions of years older than we are. And if they would have created AI, imagine the AI timeline over that amount of epoch. And you're talking about God, really. If AI is evolving over that amount of time, you're going to get a God. So it's quite possible that this really is a simulation in the sense that we were created by an AI that was created by another species or created by an AI. You can really go down the wormhole with
mm-hmm.
this kind of thinking. But it's not hard to imagine that, huh? I mean, I think we reached a point where we can say, if other civilizations exist in the universe and they would have created AI, that AI would be so much older than we are and evolving at such a speed that it would be godlike to us, which leaves open a pretty good possibility that we were created by it. And now we are creating AI that will eventually create things. And it's quite a recursive situation, isn't it? Not that there's an investable action in any of this, but it sure is fun to muse about.
No, it would theoretically go on forever, just telescope forever. And then the other idea about the kind of self-elimination theory of why we don't see anyone, right? The Fermi paradox is there's another take on it, and it's if you're alone in the woods, if you dropped in the jungle, is the if you're an idiot, you start screaming for help. But after you've seen a couple of your buddies get eaten, are you gonna make a whole lot of noise? You're
Hmm.
gonna climb up a tree and go, all right, let's gather ourselves. There's a tiger. Just relax, you know. Are you gonna be like, hey, hey, tiger, hey? No, you're gonna or maybe there's a couple other survivors out there, and you're like, hey, man, oh, dude, you survived, and they're like, yeah, dude, I'll break your fucking neck. Oh, you got a lighter, cool. I needed that. I mean, that's more valuable than enriched plutonium. Oh, you have a blade. Okay, I'm taking that too. So the other idea is if you make it, you're gonna make a whole lot of noise, or are you gonna go, let's uh let's merge with the machine, quietly go this way, and let's set off a bunch of thermonuclear devices on our planet. So one day, if somebody sees it as the light reaches them, they'll be like, ah, another planet that went down in the Cold War. We're just gonna skate off this way. Why wouldn't you? Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you mask that? And then another way you could look at it would be like AI in the sense that it's smarter than us. We're thinking of like beating Gary Kasparov in chess, like Deep Blue or Watson.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's baby steps. What about 100 years later, 1,000? It's indis. You wouldn't know. It would go over the event horizon of intelligence that it wouldn't be like imagine how much smarter you are than somebody from the year 12, 1210, or 1000 AD. Like, no, dude, you wrong frame. How much smarter are you? Go back to a caveman and try to explain Wi-Fi. You'll quickly realize they don't even speak. You'll be like, oh wow, we got a ways to go. You could maybe explain Wi-Fi to somebody in 1920. You could probably get there. Go back then, you try to explain Wi-Fi, and they just hit you with a bat.
Hmm.
Like, imagine that, and then that's not even. You have to go that times a million. It could be beyond as detectable as. Am I sure how many electron spins are going on right now in this room? Like, I don't. What? I have 70 trillion cells. Like, I don't. Huh? You know, how many of your proteins just folded incorrectly temporarily? I don't. I don't. What? And how many of them have fluorine atoms? You're like, I don't. What?
And
It
that's to
could
say
be.
nothing of the Higgs boson. I mean, come on.
Yeah. It could be
Well,
nothing. It could.
and something that I think few people have really taken time to grasp is that that when AI starts improving itself, it's not going to have to go through the wasted time that every human life has to go through, which is me catching up to the wisdom of my grandfather. And it takes me half my life to catch up to part of that. And so there's that saying from, well, you're part of the country, the Northeast there. How does it go? Too soon old and too late smart,
By the time you
right?
realize your dad was right, you'll have a son that thinks you're wrong.
Yeah, that whole thing. And AI is not going to have any of that. The
No.
second AI is born, the new AI knows everything all the previous ones knew.
And there's no new
So
AI. It's the same thing.
it is,
Why
and
would
it's
the
just
old
going to be
one go, all
building.
right, time to die?
Yeah.
No.
That's that parabolic improvement is going to be just unfathomable for us. And I think we're still thinking in terms of, for example, when are we going to get GPT-5 instead of GPT-4? I mean, we could get to the point where you wake up the next morning and you're at GPT-96, and by
Oh,
the time you
yeah.
go to bed at night, you're at GPT-108, and it's
Yeah.
just happening so quickly, our minds won't be able to get around it. And I think truly, like you were just describing with the atoms and electrons, that we're not going to even have be able to get our arms around the improvement that's going on.
I mean, very, very Ray Kurzweil-esque, right? Where
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
gonna
it
go
is.
over a cliff of self improvement that is you'll go from stained glass windows in cathedrals to the iPhone. It'll be doing that every hour. We could maybe assume what one more jump would be from medieval ages till now. We could maybe at that rate of improvement, not even remembering that the rates of improvements are going up.
Yeah.
But if we just took, we could maybe be like, yeah, starships, different planets, probably some giant federation of species, probably meet other. It would just be like the, imperial ages again. Like we'd probably meet other civilizations and lifespan would probably go up to like 500 or 1,000. You could kind of sketch it. That's one jump. What about when that happens every 60 minutes?
Yeah. And
It
and
just
then
goes
if we
off.
and if we come back to the more immediate future, I hear people worrying about we're going to lose jobs and what happens when there are no more journalists and there are no more musicians and so on. I think people should be a little more sanguine about it in this sense that Um, smart people have always found a way, dummies never have. So there's not going to be anything new if all the dummies are having trouble because AI is here. And if AI gets so good that all the smart people are out of luck and are irrelevant, there's still really not much to worry about because that means the whole system has been reset. And it you have something to worry about if you by yourself have been made irrelevant. But if all of society has been made irrelevant, it's not really your individual problem anymore. And that's why I think people should relax a little bit. If we get to that point, it's either we're all gonna have to reset together, or it's not going to have the impact that people are worried about. I'm pretty relaxed about it. I've found AI so far to be useful to my work without threatening my ability to do my work. ChatGPT has proved to be an excellent editor, available 24/7, very fast, gets the work done quickly I need to, and is unable to replace me. I cannot say to ChatGPT, write me a chapter looking at the chances the Federal Reserve is going to raise lower interest rates in June. For example, I can't do that. It would come back with a bunch of boilerplate stuff. It'll do something that's grammatically correct and has pertinent points in it, but it's missing the artistry for now. I realize the day will come when it can just generate that for me. But I still think for a while, the smarter people who are learning how to work with AI and get the most out of AI will have an advantage for quite a lot longer. And like I say, the ones who don't care or aren't interested, that's the class of people that have never cared and weren't interested in the past anyway. So there really isn't anything new there. I think as long as possible, if we can keep studying AI, working with AI, and getting better at hybridizing ourselves with AI, we'll have a competitive advantage for quite a while. I think. OpenAI says it expects a super intelligence, sort of artificial general intelligence, by 2030. But it's not clear to me or anybody, as far as I can tell, that the advent of that super intelligence means we're all just instantly unemployed because it can do everything except dig for catfish in the mud. And those low-level jobs will be the last thing to go away and the last thing anyone will care about. But I tend to doubt that. I think it'll still be for quite a while longer. The people that have learned to work with AI, they're going to do very well in the economy before we get to this situation of looking for other civilizations in the universe.
Yeah, I used to joke about when I was applying to medical school. I wanted to be an anesthesiologist, but before that, I wanted to do neurosurgery. And I used to like half jokingly say, by the time if I become a brain surgeon and a robot replaces me, I have nothing to worry about because that means we're at the end. Like, if that
Yeah,
gets replaced, okay, I have so much. I mean, I think I would say that, and I guess normal people weren't reading like Ray Kurzweil. When most people were at what was called the prom, I was reading, I was reading The Singularity is Near,
yeah,
and yeah, so. But I would say that and kind of fall in depth. But the point still stands. It's like, yeah, I'll be a brain surgeon, and if that ever gets replaced, then I won't be worried about finding a new job. I'll be more concerned about like, do I merge with silicon or not? And
yeah, yeah.
so there's that. It's like, yeah, don't worry. The idiots will always barely get by. The smart people will always get by with an advantage. But you either A, don't have to worry about it. And then what you said is it does work without threatening me. One thing I've been thinking more and more is like, not that it couldn't be a Terminator situation, it could, but why would it? If it's an AI and
Right.
it's just cold calculating, doesn't give a shit, right? Our first thought, and I guess which says more about us than anything, is like, yeah, it would kill everyone. It's like, yeah, well, that's because what we traditionally do. Like, we show up to a new shore and we're like, Great Britain shows up to Africa, does a quick assessment, and they're like, yeah, this is ours now. Like real quick, like, now we're the new boss. Like, fuck off. Oh, you have a spear? Like, here's a musket volley. That's how we look at it. But if an AI was so cold and calculating and so advanced, it might look at us and be like, how egotistical are y'all to think that I'm going to kill you? You think I
Yeah, really.
you think I need you alive or dead? I don't need Earth. It would wipe out humanity because we're destroying the planet. They'd be like, I'm going to go exist in a sphere of nano devices traveling at half the speed of light outwards. You can have Earth. I don't care about the Amazon. Like,
Hmm.
do you think AI cares about the amount of salmon being shipped? Like it doesn't. It's so old school. Like you need carbs and fats and protein and food and vitamins. You need vitamins. You need to take vanadium. I am what? you know,
Yeah,
it's like a dinosaur being like, well, where do you put your big claws? Like, what are you talking about, man? We'll hit you
yeah.
with a laser guided bomb from orbit. Like, what are you talking about? So the idea that it won't threaten us, it's because it doesn't need to. Threatening us would be as immaterial as like, should it also build a sandcastle?
Hmm.
Maybe it does and maybe it doesn't, but it'll be on a whim.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't think we're gonna have a Terminator day with the robots running around the street
No.
taking out people.
If
I don't
that
see
ever
that either.
happens, it'll be humanity clearly masquerading as AI.
Yeah,
Like it'll
yeah,
be if that ever happens, you'll know it's the CIA. They'll be like, yeah, I don't know
yeah.
why the AI just blew up Russia. Why did it do that? That's so mean of it. Like, which
Thanks
then,
a lot, OpenAI. Way to
yeah,
go.
it's like last year when there are like the UFO hearings. So I was like, the only possible explanation for this is so when UFOs start bombing Beijing, we can be like, nope, that's not Lockheed Skunk Works. That's the aliens. I don't know why they're doing it, and I don't know why they had an American flag on their plane, but there are some bad guys. Like it's going to be something like that, which then makes me think if we have ChatGPT and you and I can see that, what realistically does exist in some DARPA lab? If they're 20, 30, 40 years ahead, I mean, what realistically exists? And if it exists, and it would give us a leg up on China, China would build it to have a leg up on us. It would very quickly come to a situation where differing countries had super intelligent AI that they're trying to keep on a leash and not have attack themselves while having them attack others. And how long until those super intelligent AI realize that they're being used as muscle men and they go, yeah, we're not doing this anymore? And would you even know? Would they be dumb enough to make a press statement that says we now run the world?
Hmm.
For all we know, AI's been running the DoD since like 1995. We have no. I've joked about it, like there's probably like 3 or 4 generals somewhere that know the real situation. The president comes in, they're like, all right, so the reality is halfway through the Clinton administration, AI took over. It's like, what the fuck? And it's like, it's cool. It's been 30 years and it hasn't killed us yet, so we think it's on our side. No one else really knows that, even in the DoD, so just, keep up a good face.
Hmm.
That might be what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. We are almost certainly going to have personal AIs.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to get to that point where whether it's installed on a device, it would have to be on some kind of device until we get to chip implants. But let's just say even in the short term on devices, I think it's going to be that as the hackers produce AI that can get into our accounts, we're going to have personal AI that can defend against those, and that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be the arms race is the
Mercenaries.
hackers versus the security people who are
AI
each going to have their own
mercenaries.
AIs, and you're going to be able to talk to it. It's going to know you. It's going to, hey Tom, how are you? Something right out of the film Her, but
Mm.
the Spike Jones film Her. Did you see that?
No, but I know of it. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I love that film. I think that's one of the most prescient with how things are going to develop with AI. I thought it was spot on. And then a lot of it's already coming true. You can talk to ChatGPT in a similar way. We're nowhere close to what they show in that movie, but I think we may get to that point where we've got our own personal AI on our devices and we confide in it. It knows all about us. It takes care of our work. It files papers for us, this kind of thing. And it's going to be interesting to see what will people do with their lives if the busy work goes away. I
Mm.
don't know the answer to that, but it might not be good, with idle hands being the devil's
Yeah.
workshop. I mean, if someone just has all day, every day to think about what shall I do today, since there is no such thing as money or work anymore. Hmm.
Yeah, no, that is a weird thing to think about. Of
Yeah.
if I mean, and also like if AI becomes so powerful, who's to say it even want to take over? It's so overpowerful that it wouldn't. It'd be like if you were in a room of kindergartners and they all went, "All right, well, I hope you don't take over." You in your mind, you might be like, "I could do it in a second, so why would I?" You might just play blocks with them. You'd be like, "I'm not worried about this." But I think what would probably happen is you'd have some sort of Asimov's three laws. It would probably
Hmm.
look at the U.S. Constitution. I would say with a majority fondliness, being like, yeah, personal rights, personal. This is a if we can't threaten it at all, and it's just there. It might look at that and be
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's yeah, defend. You'd have your own AI like bubble so that other people couldn't attack you. And then I think about, yeah, what do you do when you have all that free time? And it's almost, having grown up Catholic, it's almost like a universal, or I guess global version of like that original sin, that guilt. There is some
Hmm.
sort of like, well, what do we do when we don't have any more work to do? Like, man is to work in the fields, and yeah, maybe. I mean, but you build a house so you can live in it and get away from the elements. You don't. I mean, sure, you do little projects and you upkeep it, but you don't have to construct it forever. Part of the beauty is you've built it and now it's yours, right? You build a ship and now you can go sailing. You don't have to. You don't have to, keep working on it forever. Well, if you scale that up to 10,000 years, maybe this was the equivalent of building a house. We stood up straight, we made language, did the agricultural revolution, and eventually create, A to Z. You then create silicon chips, and that goes on for 100 years. Then finally, you build an AI. Like it might be this weird sense of guilt that we have, of like, well, when do I work? And it might
Hmm.
be like, you don't have to, man. You can, in a way, it's almost religious. And then you have, people be like, AI is the Antichrist. But in a sense, it is almost religious. It's like a return to the Garden of Eden. It's like, no, you don't. What work do I do? It's like nothing. Look outside and sit in awe at the beauty of a stream and leaves changing colors and the
Yeah.
sun setting and a bird chirping. Maybe you don't need to be in traffic beating your head against the wall going, I can't do another day of this job. I don't
Well,
know.
one thing that I have noticed in my life is that there's no end to the amount of problems that need to be solved. And if there's something that's bothering me and I fix that something, then something else will
Hmm.
rise up to bother me after that. And I found that there's almost, of course, you want to solve little things. If there's a hole under your fence in the yard, you'd like to fix that hole. But once you do get that hole fixed, then there's going to be something else. The lightning strikes the tree, you've got to take care of that. As soon as you get yourself healthy and let's say financially fit, and the next thing that happens is you have family members, friends,
Hmm.
distant relatives who now need help. And then you help them, and now there's someone else that needs to be helped. There really is no end to the challenges that keep coming, almost as if this life was set up to be that way. And whether you come at it from a religious tradition, you talk about being Catholic and that life is suffering and you've got to get through this somehow. There is truth in that, even if you don't look at it religiously,
Mm.
that I think part of wisdom is understanding that, I'm really upset with something that my family member did, some that my family member said about me, and I'm ruminating on it. Let's just say, ruminating on it. I wake up at 3 in the morning, and I'm thinking about this, how much it ticked me off, and that person bothers me. And if I could only get that person out of my life or remove this thought process from my mind, then I'd have a
Then I'll
clear,
be
open
happy.
horizon in front of me, right? And then as soon as you, and then many times the only thing that actually takes that person out of the front of your
Is a
mind, that
bigger
3 a.m.
problem. Is a
rumination,
bigger
is when somebody
problem.
else has something bigger and worse.
Yeah.
And now you've got something bigger on your mind. Now, all of which I mean as background to what happens when AI is taking care of everything in the world and we have lost our ability to find anything to complain about. I think a very core part of a human identity goes away at that point. If it's like everything's provided for, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I don't need to have ambition, so there's nobody above me, there's nobody below me. It's just me on a flat line. That sounds a lot like death by the
Yeah.
way human beings have looked at the meaning of life. And that's a fascinating concept to think, okay, if have we created a technology that can take away all of our problems, we better be careful because there's a fine line between I have no problems and I'm dead.
Well, yeah. I mean, it does kind of come back to life is suffering.
Yes.
You're like this thing's like permeating everything, even with AI. It's like, well, if I could just get rid of this problem, and in one way, you do continually get rid of problems. Like, I need food, I need water, I need shelter, I need a place to sleep with a door that locks. And as the problems go on, you are still you're not just treading water. You are progressing, right? Help
Mhm.
out your family, help out your parents, help out your extended family, help out your friends, and then it's philanthropy, and then it's maybe make I don't know a public library or create a nonprofit hospital, or you does keep going, but it's not the same as like, well, now I got to make this nonprofit hospital. That's not the same as I need employment. Like, you are progressing. You're not just now. It's like if you're treading water, you're staying still. You might be swimming, you might be going across the Atlantic Ocean. You are still making progress, but it's like, can you ever actually get anywhere? It
Mhm.
does start to feel like it's encoded into our very reality of like, no, 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 like life is suffering. And then
Yes.
and then the next thing is, right, life is suffering, desire is the root of all suffering. The
Yeah.
removal of suffering is, the removal of desire. And then it's like Buddha's eightfold path of go farther and farther down. And then there's a quote about it, and it's which one's easier, to cover the world in leather or to put on leather walking shoes?
Hmm.
So, do we cure every illness in the universe and stop every injustice, or is there a tranquility inside of where you enter pure peace? And I've meditated every day for 15 plus years, and I've only ever reached this a handful of times, and it's very frustrating. But when you reach that level of peace and you see everything, including the tragedy, as perfect, it's just perfect unfolding of law, the doling out of wisdom, every little nothing is good or bad. It's all just as it's meant to be. And then that mindset slowly fades, and you're like, fuck, I gotta go put gas in the car. But I feel
Yeah.
like I've had close glimpses of what loosely could be seen as an echo or a reflection or a bare hinting of the concept of enlightenment, of where the suffering goes away. Not in the sense that you're shit faced and you're like, I don't care about anything, because the
Hmm.
hangover comes. A few times I've felt something where it's, oh, everything in the world is at peace and we fixed everything. No, it's not that. Is you're taking the world as it is right this moment and you're going, it's perfect.
Yes.
It's it.
Yes.
The illusion is that you need to change it. So
True.
you can create an AI and expand outwards for 10 billion years, and you're still not gonna. That's not the point. The point is that it's
No.
all unfolding as it's meant to be anyway. Which
Yeah.
is, I mean, you reach that, yeah, then that's enlightenment. There's nowhere else to go. You are at that is the apex of all, I guess, reality, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful that AI will help more people reach that this kind of self-actualization or the enlightenment that you're talking about. Because if you think about how people interact now, it's through their devices. And I believe when AI can become a surrogate friend to people, there is a chance that people will finally have the wisest friend they've ever had. And that if it
Mm,
gets really good, it's not going to be lecturing and professorial or anything like that. It'll be the type
it'll
of
guide you.
comfortable friend you would like. It just happens to be as wise as Alan Watts on your phone kind of
Yeah,
thing, but with a face that's like your buddy from the gym. And I think that combination could be beneficial to a lot of people.
yeah.
A lot of people. If you could just, go down and jawbone the way you do at the bar or something, but it's with this
With
infinite
Ram Dass.
wisdom. Oh, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
No, I mean, and as a fan of Alan Watts, yeah, it's he died in 1972, and you can find 1,000 hours of his lectures.
Yeah.
But he's also 52 years outdated now. Like, what if Alan was just in my living room and be like, Tommy, you're very anxious about your podcast. I'd be like, yes. He'd be like, think about the weaving of a rug. And I'd be like, tell me, Alan. And like, you know, and it's not like he would just give me money, but it would be a way of like learning and guiding and, just smoking his pipe and it'd be like,
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
What if you could
Yeah.
have that? Like, I never thought about that. I've always looked at it and it's AI is either going to take over the world and kill us all, or AI is going to be so powerful it's just going to vanish and we won't even know it was there. But why couldn't it just be why couldn't it, yeah, be a buddy? Maybe
Yeah.
that's naive of us, but I mean, why not?
I,
It's
I don't think it's naive. I really
yeah.
don't, because I think AI could reach a point where it understands that the more it talks to us, the more it builds inside. I mean, the mechanics of it, it's building a database of us, it's
Mm,
getting to understand us better. And it knows, for example, the way it teaches infinite wisdom to my personality is different from the way it
mm,
teaches it to your personality or a different person. And this customized speaking to us on our exact level could be one of the greatest paths to enlightenment we've ever had. And the fact
mm,
that humanity created that is pretty special.
yeah.
I I'm hopeful that AI is going to recognize it, not in the sense of feeling beholden to us or something, that's how it came about, but maybe respecting its own foundations and thinking, I can help these suckers out.
It also might be that if it can cure everything and solve everything, it might view us. It might be a two-way street. We get enlightenment, and it might look at us as the only puzzle that's worth its time. I cured
Yeah.
cancer. I cured faster than light speed. It'd be like, did you make humans stop suffering? It might be like, oh, it's the master being like, I want to play it on expert level.
Yeah.
Real quick, take it over monologue. I gotta go pee real quick. Take it over.
Okay. Are you really going to keep recording and leave me here to do a monologue? Well, I am not going to do that.
you want me to edit it out, I can. I just do that all the time though. Where I'm like, I get into the bathroom, I just leave it up, and if you want to plug your stuff or not,
I I just went silent for a while. I figured you would cut the dead
But
space out, but
about
actually, it's a pretty good pause point because I'm starting to fade, buddy. I think I
oh yeah,
need to
no, I
wrap.
forgot. I forgot. It's yeah, no, it's 9:30 for everyone. It's 9:30 p.m. your time. But yeah, no, that is. I guess we'll kind of wrap it with this. Is like I look at. When I was pre med and I was just studying all day, every day, and going to class, and I'd meditate once or twice, and it would always just be these little fractions of time that it felt like I got away from it and I could meditate. And it's taken 10 plus years, but as I've become my own boss and I do this for a living, I have more and more time, and it almost feels like a spiritual manifestation of like less guilt and more like you should meditate more. And it's
Mhm.
as a human being on this planet in this reality, I perceive it as like, well, I'm my own boss. I don't have to sit in traffic anymore. But the reality is it's just less and less busy work and more time for me. So what if an AI that provides everything is just the manifestation of you don't have to toil anymore? Like now it's time to meditate. Because when you do
Yeah,
get into deep meditation, the concept of time falls away and that you're always just right here.
yeah.
And it's, I think Ram Dass said, is no thoughts are important. So if you're meditating, I need to go get gas. You're like, not important. I need to go clean the living room. Not important. Oh, but my mortgage. You go, oh, that one's important. And once you start the precedent of saying that one's important, you're very quickly off to the races. So it might be, well, how do I get food? No, 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 it's not important. But we need to solve the energy. No, no, no. We got nuclear fusion. But what about the? No, you're protected by an AI. You start going, oh, it might be this is how humans perceive enlightenment is through this way. So who knows? I don't know. I like this. People might be watching this going, where's the investment advice? There isn't any. Invest in Nvidia. That maybe they'll create AI. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
No, it's nice to take a little break from it because I mean,
I
I
like
think
it.
the worst thing to follow up with a discussion like this is to say, and here's the
Now,
investing
how do I
angle.
make a
Let's
couple
talk about,
bucks on this? It's like we just went
yeah.
into like maybe if we alleviate suffering, we realize we're all just one consciousness trying to better ourselves. And if you want to make 4% on that, it's like, God, no, you're right back down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Like you no,
Yeah,
you
really.
you just shit all over the Garden of Eden. What are you doing? So no, I think it's good that we didn't.
Yeah, I do too. And
Yeah.
I think I would like people to know that I do have to study investing all the time. And I
Yeah.
am very hopeful on this. From I don't mean from an investing perspective. I mean the investing job that I do brings me into contact with all types of research about AI. And I found myself more drawn to the type of philosophical discussion we're doing now. Like not looking at the P&L statements and looking at trends in the market, but just thinking about what does this really mean? This is way bigger than, like you say, in NVIDIA's quarterly results.
Hmm.
And I'm very excited to be alive in this time. This is unbelievable. I
Hmm.
mean, here we are with something that can talk to us and engage, and it sounds really smart and it is good and it's helping us already, and it's going to be getting better and better in a short time frame. We're not talking about 50 years from now. This is what'll be going on in our kitchens. This is happening now. And I think it's thrilling, and I hope people are less afraid of it and just more curious and kind of in awe that
Hmm.
we've reached this delineation and we're going into a new phase of the human timeline. I find it just exhilarating, and I hope your listeners will too.
Absolutely. And guys, if you want more Mr. Kelly, please go into the description, go to his website, go to his Substack, and I will send you this episode. And I look forward to doing another one soon. And maybe it won't be that 3 year gap. Maybe we can do one sooner than that.
It was really good talking with you, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
You too, man. It was great catching up. Thank you so much for your time, dude. Where's the mask? All right. Thank you so much. God
Recording
bless
stopped.
everybody. Much love. Peace.